welcome back to our series called Unmasking Leaders, a series inviting leaders to join myself and Katie Wilson so we can dig deeper to behind the scenes of what most people will see and know. We want to explore the insights from the stories that sit on the non-technical side of the business world. So today we are delighted to be joined by Jay. Hi, Jay. How are you?
Hi, hello. I'm all good. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. I guess
Most
a good
welcome.
place to kind of start is I know you've just recently set up your own events and
I
catering.
have.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's keeping me very busy. All the warnings that people give you when you set up a business, that it's really hard work and it will keep you chained to your desk and your phone 24/7. That is true. But it is the decision I chose and I'm very happy. So yes, we have been trading now since I actually set the business up earlier this year, but we've been trading since July. And we have done several events already. So the wheels are in motion.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank
Sounds
you so
amazing.
much.
And obviously, I feel like a great kind of question to tie into that is obviously, how long have you been working in the
Of
hospitality
course.
industry? That's a big one. And kind of what brought you into it, I suppose. That's probably where I want to start.
Of course. Well, I suppose the short answer feels like too long, but I'll give you a better answer. It's been around, gosh, about 15, 16 years now. How I got into it was almost a mistake, and fell into it. I went to college, I left and had this dream that I wanted to be in property and property development. So I became a trainee quantity surveyor. And when I say this to people, everybody has a surprised reaction because I just don't think my personality fits that box. So I did it for about 18 months. And I very quickly realized that that environment of being around, much more mature gentlemen, it was a kind of very white-oriented environment. It just wasn't for me. So I opened up a uni prospectus and I literally just thought, what can I do that's fun? And the events course, it just screamed out at me. I went to lots of open days and I just fell in love with Manchester. And the lady that became my tutor is the person that actually hosted the open day, and she kind of cornered me and my dad and said, you need to be on this course. So that's kind of how it happened. And then I took the course and we did an industrial placement during that degree. So I moved to London. I did a year in industry with a caterer, quite a well-known caterer at the time, and I just got the bug. And I went back to uni, but every weekend I was coming back to London to work on events, going back to Manchester. And by the end of finishing my degree, I got offered a job with said caterer, and I was there for about 9 years in the end. Yeah, and that kind of it was the right decision that I realized then.
Well, I feel as though there seems to be a common trend that people seem to fall into the industry,
Yeah.
But I can tell that you're quite a people person, so maybe quantity surveying in the first.
Yeah, didn't fit.
Whereas you're much more fitted now.
Yeah, but yeah, this is the industry for me, and I love it.
That's so interesting to hear how that's all it started. What are the experiences or moments in your career that have shaped you so much so far as a leader? What would you say?
I think having started that career at what I was a young age, it was early 20s. It was we were working in quite a small business at the time, but it happened to be very fast paced. We had a lot of events and there was a lot going on. And effectively over a period of time, I became more in tune with the business and the owner stepped away further. So effectively what happened was in my early 20s, I was essentially running a company, and that kind of shaped me instantly and effectively made me grow up very quickly because I had responsibilities of a team, I had responsibilities of clients, I had responsibilities to the owner. So I think that's what really shaped me quite early on, and being put into, I guess, situations which typically I'd be doing maybe 10 years later in my career. They just seem to happen then.
Well, with you being in the events and hospitality industry,
Yes.
the COVID pandemic must have definitely impacted you. How did you find that period?
I think the one word answer I give to that whole experience was traumatic. However, in a weird circumstance, it was also the year I got married. So it was kind of the worst and best year of my life and career. I got married just before COVID, so in February 2020. And I had also just assumed a new role as managing director of a catering company. And I vividly remember the week of the 23rd of March 2020. That day is ingrained in my mind, because the week leading up to it, you know, we had a summer of, you know, several £1 million worth of events, and just day by day it just dropped and dropped. And I think having to manage my owners, who were, you know, obviously quite emotional at the time, they saw their business essentially crumbling before them, and I was in charge of running it. We had a team of about 40 people, and, you know, having just assumed an MD role, making 30 to 40 people redundant instantly is not, you know, you're not going to become anyone's best friend. But what that did help us do is we managed to navigate the pandemic. We pivoted the business in several ways. We came out, I say unscathed because we didn't have to go under. We maintained profit, and just before I left, I did leave after that, we actually managed to get nearly everybody back working in the company. So it was a weird getting married, the world is ending, we've really had to, you know, cut our cloth and make lots of people redundant, which is horrific for anybody that ever has to do it. But then the beauty of it was that we came out the other side and we got most of those people working back in the business.
You got to start again with everyone. That's
Effectively
really great.
start again with the same people.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, it's not amazing at the same time.
No.
About the COVID pandemic, and it's just one of those big kind of, everyone's got such vivid memories of such an awful time, but it sounds as if you really had to kind of figure out how to approach it and manage to make it the best of what it could be.
And again, it helped me grow up again, because it was another experience that I'd never had in my life. And I was running a company, and very quickly you have to just adjust, pivot, and go in every single direction you can.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people have experienced imposter syndrome, or feeling unsure about their abilities. Have you ever experienced this, and how did you overcome it?
Hugely, massively. I think anybody that doesn't feel that maybe hasn't quite learned that about themselves yet. And I personally think you can only grow by realizing you are in an uncomfortable situation that you are not experienced enough to be in. And I think my first experience of this was taking over a company at such a young age. I was going to the big important meetings. I was going to pitch to clients, you know, banks, law firms. I was in my early 20s, you know, 15 odd years ago, a 20-year-old mixed race guy turning up saying that I'm going to run all your events and do all business for you, effectively sitting in a room of 3 very mature white men. I felt completely out of my comfort zone. So I feel like I always had to work slightly harder to prove myself. And that helped me also grow and shape me as the leader that I am today. So it really gave me imposter syndrome. And every meeting I would go to, I would think, oh, they're not going to take me seriously because I'm young, or because I'm from this background, or anything I could think of that would make me feel uncomfortable, I would. But what I did was I've had a mentor now throughout my whole career, about I think we're on our 16th or 17th year together, longer than a life sentence and longer than a marriage. And I've fed into them quite often, and they would always give me the same answer, which is believe in yourself and you will be fine. And that has got me through.
Do you think you know, how much support you get from family as well, I think is quite important, isn't it? That kind of going home at the end of the day and, you know, resetting or being able to overlook it and
Absolutely.
go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think in my mid-20s, I actually met my husband now, and he also was fairly young for his job, I say. He was, you know, in quite a senior job and also quite young. And I think both of us having that experience, we would both feed off of each other and support each other. So not only did I have a mentor, I also had someone supportive at home. So that did help. But I do think just believing in your own ability, if it does get you there.
There's no like level of quality at which you stop being you. You know, you just need to really believe in what you can bring to the table. Definitely.
100%, but it takes a long time for you to
be
comfortable in doing it. And now I am, but we get there.
That's great. Yeah. So thinking back on that, can you tell us about a failure or maybe a setback that you now feel like ended up being one of your most valuable lessons? And like, how did it change your approach to what you do now?
I think being young and I guess inexperienced in certain areas of business, you react in a certain way because you don't know what you don't know. So in a scenario that you don't agree with your boss or the owner of the company at the time, being less experienced, you're more inclined to be, I guess, quite stroppy. You don't want to hear anything else but your suggestion because you think you are right. And I think only experience can teach you, and big mistakes or F-ups, mind my language, that blow up in your face, only they can teach you that actually take everybody's opinion on board, because everybody's opinion is valued. People that have been in business longer than you, they aren't telling you what they think because they're patronizing you. They're telling you because they genuinely want to help you and support you because they've been there. And that's a massive learning I've had. I think in terms of an actual example of a complete mess up would be probably when I'd moved from my first job to my second job. And in business, you get several promises, and if you do this, you'll get this, and if you do that, you'll get that. And I think not seeing out the full term of a job because the things that were promised to me weren't delivered may have potentially been a mistake, and maybe I should have looked at the bigger picture and carried on, and maybe the promises would have come in the end. But at the same time, when you're young, you're ambitious, you're hungry, and if the promise doesn't come, you want to move on and get it from
You
someone.
can only do what you think is right at the
Exactly.
time as well. You know, you can't always look back and regret. You have to just focus on now and also the future as well.
Yeah, I think also as well, the side of it I always think about is the fact that you are where you are today because of all those choices too.
It's true, it's very true. That's so true. And I guess when you take that on board, there's no right or wrong answer, is there?
Yeah,
It leads
hindsight's
you
a
on your
wonderful
path.
thing.
It is.
Yeah, definitely.
It is.
And obviously, because I can tell your leadership style, you know, it's you probably have that growth mindset of always trying to improve. How can you be better?
Yeah.
But obviously, leadership can be really lonely at times as well. Like, how do you handle moments when those tough decisions rest solely on your shoulders, especially in like high stakes situations?
Well, Izzy, you've clearly got my personality very quickly down to a T, because yes, that is me. I will beat myself up over every decision, whether it's right or wrong, and analyze it and think how I could have done it differently and really, really be angry with myself. And then when I've done with wasting that time, I lean on my support network, and I'm incredibly lucky to have a very big support network. I truly believe in, you know, always keeping relationships positive when you leave a company or a job, or you part ways with a client in not necessarily the best of terms. I truly believe never burn a bridge. And having that thought process is, I've now got a network where I've got other caterers that I've worked with for many years supporting me in my business, which, you know, typically people would think, why are competitors helping competitors? But we don't see it that way. They're just being supportive. My mentor has been instrumental in my career journey, from my first job to my second job to my third job to setting up my own business. And in actual fact, without them, I would not have set up my own business. So they have been truly instrumental. And I think I would say to anybody starting out in any career, just not hospitality, surround yourself with people with experience and some time available to give you, and it really will help and shape, grow your path.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I mean, I've heard from so many different people that I've met that when they talk about their career, they said there was somebody who was so key from the get-go who helped them grow and believed in them. And I
Yeah,
think that is so important when
it
building
really
a
is.
leader.
And because of that, one of my biggest things, especially when setting out the business, is to allow time to mentor. It's so important to me to nurture talent, because without talent, the world will be nothing. And so it's just so important for me to nurture and nurture and nurture. And I think that stems from having that experience myself. So it is a very lonely place, and only you can make the decision for you, but you can seek advice of people you trust. And that old mother's tale of your gut is always right is really true. It
Yeah,
is so true.
definitely. So obviously you just said that I kind of got your personality to a T there, that you obviously overanalyze
Yep.
for the right reasons. So would you say you get quite stressed over certain situations, and do you have certain ways you manage your stress?
Yeah, I do. I think, again, going back to the learning and the journey, and I started young, so I was in stressful situations that most 20-year-olds wouldn't be in. And so I think that shaped me, and my way of dealing with it then is completely different to the way I deal with it now. And I think outbursts and panicking and stressing, they actually get you nowhere. It's wasted energy. So yes, it's very stressful, and my ways of dealing with it are leaning on the network that I have around me and I built. And I think it really does take a while for you to ask people for help and to delegate and to not be proud. And so, you know, team members, I've got a small business, so I've got a small team, and, you know, entrusting them with things, you can't think that's going to necessarily look bad on you. You're empowering them, you're freeing up some time on your desk to relieve stress, and everybody can still be proud. So yes, it's very stressful, and I deal with it now. I do deal with it differently. I think before it would just be tantrums and, you know, not knowing how to. So you have an immediate outburst, but now I think I sit back, I assess, and then you make your judgment.
If you were mentoring someone just starting out in the hospitality industry or
Yes.
events industry today, what do you think would be your key piece of advice to give them?
I think my key piece of advice would, as I've said, it would be to find yourself someone in the industry that you are choosing to go into that has got experience that you admire, you trust, and you respect. Because it's a completely different opinion from what your family can give you. It's a completely different opinion from what your colleagues can give you. And it's a really objective opinion because it's coming from someone outside of your world. And so that is my first big piece of advice to anybody starting out in anything. And if that isn't available, truly believe in yourself, because you will get there in the end.
And kind of building on from that, I feel like you might have kind of answered it. So
yes.
maybe think of a different answer.
Okay.
What are the
You're testing me now.
What are the qualities or traits that younger generations should focus on developing early in careers to become a successful leader?
I think this is something I've actually struggled with myself, having been young and starting out in an industry. And, you know, I think the generation today get quite a bad rep of potentially not wanting to work hard, being quite sensitive, and we are in a more sensitive world than we used to be, in my mind. And I think we have to adjust as leaders, and it's been actually a struggle for me because I was there so recently myself. I think, well, I used to do it, what's the issue? And so I think the traits of asking the right questions but not the unnecessary questions, being committed, showing commitment, and showing respect. And I think those are traits that I mentor with. And, you know, whether you respect an elder's opinion or your superior's opinion or not, whether you agree or not, they're giving it for a reason, and it's their experience. And I just think the traits of, I say the generation gets a bad rep because I think everything is quick, everything is instant, and the world actually doesn't work that way. So I think the traits are respect, patience, and when I say being inquisitive and not asking unnecessary questions, I think a prime example is not asking what time you're going to finish, and not asking when you've just started, because that's obviously going to get someone's back up, and it's probably not going to help you. So I think traits is obviously hard because humans are humans and behaviors are behaviors, but those are, I think, tactics and suggestions to look out for that I give my mentees.
That's great advice. Yeah, I think when you mention the younger generation, I definitely think it's a big topic of conversation at the minute, and it's probably how you have to maybe adapt a leadership style rather than see it as like a roadblock, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. You know, if you go against any grain, you are going to get nowhere. So if you adapt your behaviors to adjust to the situation around you, that is very clearly the way we now are, the world now is, then you will progress. And every day is a learning day for both parties, those being led and those leading.
And obviously work-life balance has become a real big topic too. How do you, I mean, I know you're an entrepreneur and you've set up your own business, so how do you personally navigate work-life balance? I mean, being a leader, it must be quite a challenge.
entrepreneur, such a big word. It makes me feel very, very important when I'm really not.
You are.
Thank you, Missy. Again, I actually think it's sign of the times. 15 odd years ago, asking for you would dread asking your boss for a holiday. I mean, you would be petrified, which is it's wrong. It is wrong, but that was the time that we were in. I joked earlier about asking what time you finished, but if you looked up at your desk and everybody was still working at 6 o'clock, you would just carry on. You wouldn't want to be seen as leaving, and that was wrong or right at the time. Either way, that's not the time we're in now, because people cherish their work-life balance so much, and I think that is the absolutely right thing. And I think the hospitality industry is quite archaic in some areas, and it needs to adjust to get away from this bad rep that hospitality is overworked and underpaid. And I think by adjusting and appreciating people's work life and appreciating that just because the business operates 7 days a week, 24/7, it doesn't mean your employees should. Because you want well-rested, well-refreshed people, because then you can develop them and lead them to be success for both sides. And so I think it's really important that hospitality wakes up and listens to this generation, that they don't want to work 20 hours at a weekend, because that is when they want to have their fun. But do they want to work in the week? Can they work from home? Can they come in at 8 and leave at 4 instead of doing a 9 till 6? And that's just being flexible, amenable, and understanding to the world that we are in.
Yeah, and sometimes as well, if you're obviously you set up your own business, so you might be putting in a lot more hours and asking more of yourself, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're expecting.
No.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that, because that has been something recently. We are in a busy period, and I chose this. I chose to take the risk to set up my own business, and that's the decision that I have made. And if I want to work until 9 or 10 o'clock at night because I need to get something back to a client, that's on me. And I can't have any grievance with anybody leaving before me, coming in later than me, or refusing to do something because it's in their personal time, because I would react the same way. And so I think you can only treat people how you want to be treated.
Absolutely. Kind of going off on that as a
Sure.
finishing question, looking forward, what excites you about the future of leadership and the hospitality industry? And are there any trends or shifts that you're particularly excited about?
I think for me, personally, what's really exciting for me is one of the main reasons I set my business up is because I have worked in catering for 15, 16 years, and I look around the market and I have not seen many or enough people that look like me or are from my background working in this space. And so I thought, do you know what? I like to disrupt, and I want to fill that gap. But I am just me, and I want many more people to do that too. And I want to help engage that, and I want to mentor people, and I want to create a world where everybody feels in hospitality, because I'm definitely not a magician, and the world is a big place. But it's really important to me that I nurture and I mentor and bring my values to the industry as much as I can, because it's exciting that we can control this. We can nurture this talent pool now to do what we are doing in 10 years' time. That is so exciting. And the world that I felt underrepresented in, well, there's no good moaning about it. Do something about it, or don't. And I'm choosing to do something about it.
It's really nice that you say that, actually, because I feel as though you obviously really remember kind of where you were and how
I do vividly.
Take that forward and do something about it, which I think is really, really, yes, it speaks volumes about you, Jay. There you go.
One can only try, is what I tell myself every day. One can only try. But I think that's the most exciting thing, and I really think it is important, regardless of diversity and inclusion, just to create a hospitable world where the service industry is not seen, as I said before, as overworked and underpaid. And actually, one benefit, if there ever was one, of COVID was making everybody realised that actually hospitality is a respectable industry and it should be paid at the levels of other roles. You know, if somebody is a manager, it doesn't matter if it's in a restaurant or whether it's in an office, they should kind of be on an equal playing field. The responsibilities are the same. And I think because a lot of people left the industry because they felt overworked and undervalued after COVID, it made everybody wake up. And I'm so glad to see salaries, you know, increasing and benefits and well-being being really taken care of in our industry, because it will make a better place.
And well, thank you so much, Jay. It's been
Thank
so
you.
interesting to talk to you
Thank
and
you
to
very
hear
much.
your thoughts on everything. So thank you for joining our Unmasking Leaders
No problem.
podcast. Your personal insights and stories have truly given us a deeper understanding of not only the hospitality industry, but also the resilience and leadership required to thrive in it. It's been a pleasure to have you. And we look forward to
Thank you.
seeing what you do in the future. And we look forward to seeing what the future holds for Ripe Avocado as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Jay. It was so interesting to hear all of your insights. And of course, thank you to our online listeners too. We hope to welcome you back to our next episode.